St. Petersburg, Florida is on the verge of losing its largest development deal in its history. A deal projected to have $12 billion in local economic impact, bringing over 17,000 jobs. And you know what? This could be a good thing. All right, let's talk about the Rays and this whole stadium mess. Imagine putting all of your chips on the table, building a stadium without a team, kicking families out of their homes, and then nothing. That's what went down here in St. Pete over 30 years ago, and now we're doubling down on the same gamble. So let me get you caught up to speed on how this all started. So back in 1990, St. Pete decided to go all in on Tropicana Field. They built it hoping to attract a Major League Baseball team, but here's the kicker. There was no team, zero, nothing. And to make all of this happen, they had to bulldoze the historic gas plant district. This displaced families and small businesses, but they promised that they would bring jobs and growth and opportunity. But the reality, the stadium sat empty for 8 years. And when the Rays finally showed up in 1998, they ended up playing in one of the worst rated stadiums in the MLB. Even when the Rays were good, I'm talking World Series in 2008, playoff runs, they couldn't fill the stands. Tropicana Field is a tough spot. It's outdated, it's hard to get to, and honestly, fans just aren't excited about going there. Year after year, attendance numbers were some of the worst in the league, and in 2023, Sports Illustrated ranked Tropicana Field as not one of the worst, but the worst MLB stadium in the league, citing declining attendance despite the team's competitive performance. Now, with all of this, the Rays' lease in Tropicana Field, it's nearing its end in 2027, and they themselves came out and said, we need a new stadium. They feel like Tropicana Field being outdated was part of the problem for the attendance issue. Obviously, you know how I feel. It's definitely the location. And with this being in the air, a lot of people wanted to have the Rays, including Tampa, just across the bay. But there were some other cities and other states as well. But here's what the Rays decided to do. They wanted to stay in St. Petersburg. And here we are today with this $1.3 billion plan to replace Tropicana Field. The Rays are going to throw in $700 million, with the city stepping in and saying, I'm going to put up $287 million, and the county throwing in about $312 million. That's money coming from bonds, tourist taxes, so technically not straight from the taxpayers' pockets. But in my head, I'm like, why, after all of these years of having this issue, did the Rays decide to stay in St. Pete? Well, it was an easy choice. There was financial incentives. The city and the county are combining to help with about $600 million. And with this deal, the Rays have the development rights to the land, so they can simply create this whole project how they want to. So with this new deal, the Rays are supposed to continue to play in Tropicana Field while they built the new stadium just next door. And they had plans to move into the new venue by 2028. But here's where things really start to unravel. Pinellas County Commission was lagging behind on their approval of their share of the bonds for the agreement. This was supposed to be voted in or voted on in October of 2024, but they decided to push it back to December instead.
$1.6 billion, which is the total cost of the city.
Today's vote is about the city honoring the commitments we've already made.
There's 65 acres at play that the Rays don't want to give up.
The people in St. Pete deserve better. And P.S., where are the Rays?
And you know what happened in October? Hurricane Milton. The storm tore the roof off of Tropicana Field, causing an estimated $55 million in damages. And here's where things get a little messy, because when it's time for someone to pay, everybody's suddenly standing around twiddling their fingers. The Rays are saying, we shouldn't have to pay $55 million for a stadium that we're not going to be playing in here in a few years, but you do need it right now per this deal. And then everybody's pointing fingers at each other. Now you got delays on the new stadium. You have $1 million in repairs for the current Tropicana Field, and no one stepping up to take the responsibility. It's the perfect storm, literally and figuratively. That new wedding already feels shaky. The Rays found a temporary new home in Tampa across the bay at Steinbrenner Field. Now, this is where the Yankees play their spring training games, leaving the city of St. Petersburg stuck with Tropicana Field. Now, the plan is still somewhat to build the new stadium, but the Rays realistically can't do that playing 3 or 4 seasons at this temporary venue. Meanwhile, the city of St. Pete and Pinellas County are demanding answers. The city even approved their share of the funding in hopes that the Rays wouldn't back out, or maybe they were hoping that they would back out, which would cause a breach of the agreement.
They do not have the financial capacity. We haven't even gotten to the building stage.
I'm ready today, and like I said, it's no shock to anybody who knows my position on this, but we need to move this forward because, quite frankly, I think we're calling their bluff by doing so.
All right, so that's where we're at with all of this. $1 billion gamble, delays, damages, and a lot of finger pointing. But here's the real question. Do people even want to keep the Rays in St. Pete?
I'd rather they stay here instead of moving to Ybor.
I think they should stay, but I think they should start tearing the stadium down now.
I hope they're leaving. Whenever there are games, it's impossible to even drive home.
I like it here, just for personal reasons, because it's right down the street. But they'll probably get larger crowds in Tampa.
I want them to stay, honestly. It's nice because my apartment's a few blocks from here, so I can easily walk to a game. I don't have to worry about parking or nothing. So,
all right, what kind of business do you have?
A hair salon.
If I had hair, I promise you, I would visit you. All right, so here's where I stand with all of this. There still might be a way out where everyone wins, but doubling down on a long-term idea that has already proven to fail is not the route that I would take. There are plenty of cities out there that would gladly take the Rays and provide them a location that the fans, the people that actually buy the tickets and go to the games, that they would actually go to. Sure, it might mean taking a small loss now, but it could be a bigger win for the future. But let's just say they do figure it out and they decide to stay. Okay, what about Tropicana Field? The current stadium that's already built and here, could it be renovated into something more appealing? We know it doesn't need to be bigger, it doesn't need more seats, but do you have to spend $1.3 billion on a new one? I'm anxious to find out. I would love to know what you all think about it in the comment section down below. Should they stay? Should they leave? We'll find out here very soon. Would love to stick around, but until next time.